Okay, so we need some rocketry. I would like to have more engines. Small engines I don't care about too much. I mean, they're nice, but I want this big engine. So we'll research that, and I don't really care about SRBs. This is SRBs, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that. Storage containers are nice. Docking ports will be useful. Ooh, strut. I will take that. And bearings and adapters I don't really care too much for. There's a higher resolution satellite, which probably need eventually. Let's see, 600 was that one. Do we have anything that's like really extremely powerful? 2,000. 9,000, okay. So I'm gonna get that. And then we do need some landing legs. So grab those. Radiators. That's for satellite network, which I'm not quite ready to put up. Those are lights and batteries. I guess we'll grab that. And this is Luna 1 and 2, so we need that. Remote sample analysis, there's nothing there. Unmanned sample recovery, also nothing. Freedom 7. Don't think we're quite ready to do manned mission just yet. Do Mars or Venus. I'm going to go ahead and wait on both of those. We will get this antenna. $400 million meters. So we will need that. Alright. I think that's about it. I could get a cathane detector. Oh, no I can't because I don't have enough. Okay. Plane parts, not too interested in particularly. Actually, I think I will grab that, just because it's only 10 science. Anything else in here? Control surfaces, it's 100 science. I guess we could go ahead and use up the rest of what we have. Yeah, why not? Ooh, what's this one? Hypersonic flight. Atmospheric scoop. Those are going to be useful, but not for quite some time. Alright. 10 science. Why not? Alright, we've used everything but 1 science.
So I went ahead and built the plane. I fashioned it a little bit after an F-15 or some type of fighter jet. And I flew it up to middle atmosphere to possibly get some science out of the Wacom, or Wacom, possibly. But it turned out that I had already gotten science out of that, so I'm just coming in for a landing now. Now this is a very delicate procedure that I'm performing right here. This works for fixed wing planes only. Like, I wouldn't recommend you doing this in a Piper or a Cessna or something. You might be able to pull it off in a Lear, but it wouldn't be comfortable. Basically what you do is, if you're high enough, you lower your airspeed to the point where you can roll and kind of go flat on into the air and then pull back around. It's quite fun if you've ever done it in real life. It's pretty fun even if you do it in a video game. But you can pull quite a lot of G's. So, yes. Okay, we're just coming in on final approach now, and I'm trying to slow it down and kind of stay low And this thing does not slow down very well. I don't think we have air brakes yet. I haven't really figured that out. I haven't spent that much time on building aircraft. Not nearly as much time as I've spent on building probes and rockets and things. Okay, so the main goal here is just to stay low and try to bleed off as much speed as possible, and then make touchdown on the back wheels first, and then the front. Oh, crap. Crap. Go right. Nope. Nope. Ah. Oh.
Oops. That was the wrong time to eject.
Okay, so I'm not sure what we're going to do with this wreckage. I think we're just going to leave it here as a testament to my failure to build aircrafts, and should send somebody out to plant a flag in commemoration of Jebediah. I think I'm going to, from now on, go into the cockpit before I actually eject. So that way I don't eject straight into the ground. Okay, we'll go ahead and go to our first launch of the episode. We are going to the moon, and this is the vehicle that will be taking us there. It is a probe, and those boosters are reusable. They have some parachutes on the side. I believe I put some on the top as well. I can't really see from here. The main engine doesn't fire until the boosters run out. The boosters are mainly to get through the atmosphere, and the main engine will be to almost circularize our orbit. So Luna 1, the first probe to the moon, was launched by the Soviet Union, and it was an impactor. It was meant to impact the moon, and then we could observe it from the Earth and help us better understand the composition of the moon, especially underneath the top layer of dust, which was previously the only thing that we could really analyze. Completely missed the moon. It was actually a small calculation error, and it is now in a heliocentric orbit, which means it orbits the sun, and will be until we decide to recover it or it re-encounters Earth. I did learn that is actually Cuba there that you see in the background, the large one, and then the small one kind of down just off the tip there is the Bahamas. I looked that up. That's kind of good to know if you live in that region or traveling to that region. And I guess Bahamas is right above the rocket as you're seeing it right now, and then Cuba is over there to the right a little bit more. It's a much bigger island. The Bahamas is quite small. Another thing, interesting thing about the engine that I'm using, that is actually the engine that was used on the Atlas rockets during the Gemini program to do like spaceship docking and stuff like that. 1958, just after NASA was founded, they start up the Pioneer project. Pioneer 1 was an 87-pound satellite that was intended to orbit the moon, strapped on top of a Thor Able rocket. Unfortunately, it failed to orbit, as did Pioneer 2. They scrapped that mission in favor of a lunar flyby and switched the rocket to a Juno 2. On December 6th, they launched Pioneer 3. It unfortunately also failed to orbit. Pioneer 4 was the first probe to make it to the moon. On March 4th, 1959 at 5:25 p.m. Eastern Time. Another interesting thing is SpaceX. I'm not sure if you caught that last week. They unveiled the Dragon 2 space capsule. And it looks like they're shooting for 2016 as far as actually putting it in use. Later this year, they will be testing on the pad abort system, and then next year they're going to be testing Max-Q abort system and also doing an unmanned orbital test of it, and then simulating conditions with people in it. You know, like putting dummies in it and generating a little bit of moisture and carbon dioxide and just see how things respawned. It's actually quite similar to the progression of the first tests of the Mercury program, where you test the abort systems first and then make sure everything is working properly, do a bunch of tweaks. And I'm not sure about that interior. If you saw the conference, the seats look a little bit hard if they're going to be experiencing 3Gs or more. That might just require some padding in the suits, but it probably will be a seat redesign. Okay, so we were officially circularized, and I did a small burn there to correct our inclination in relation to the moon. And now I'm just setting down maneuver node. I think we'll just go ahead and watch this burn. Okay, so we need a communication satellite so we can maintain connection with our probe that we sent to the moon. So about 11 months after Explorer had launched successfully, President Eisenhower commissioned Project SCORE, Signal Communications by Orbiting Relay Equipment. Unless you consider a single repeating tone to be a communication, then this was essentially the first satellite to communicate. I don't think we should go so far as calling it a communications satellite, because it was just a recording on an infinite loop. The recording was a message from Eisenhower, assuring the world that the United States wasn't going to be using space as high ground for the war effort. Fortunately, we still have that recording, so here it is.
This is the President of the United States speaking. Through the marvels of scientific advance, my voice is coming to you from a satellite circling in outer space. My message is a simple one. Through this unique means, I convey to you and to all mankind America's wish for peace on earth and goodwill toward men everywhere.
Project Echo in 1960 and 64, these were still the early years of NASA. It was a passive communications satellite that went into low Earth orbit. Basically, they took a metallized balloon and a few pounds of gas, put it into low Earth orbit, and blew up the balloon, and then shot microwaves at it, and used it as a way of getting a direct line of sight across the country. It was pretty awesome what they did with that. It's still not the first communication satellite, but it is interesting. I mean, this is a time when the biggest thing in orbit is under a meter. And not just a little bit under a meter, well under a meter. Here's NASA putting something that's 30 meters, which is 100 feet, a 100-foot sphere into orbit. What's even more challenging is it's a balloon, which is really susceptible to the pressure gradient in between the inside of the balloon and the vacuum outside. So working that out, and also figuring out how you can do that with preventing meteorite, the micrometeorite strikes, and still have an inflated balloon. That must have been quite challenging. But anyways, back to this probe. We are almost circularized here. And as you can see, I'm using the parts from the FASA pack to simulate as Explorer. Yeah, Explorer was put into orbit very similar to this. Didn't have a second liquid stage. But all of the solid rocket boosters that put this thing into orbit, very similar. Its final was a single one, was the only thing, because I had to use 3 because this was heavier. So yeah, I have 2 communication satellites on either side, and I realized after I got this into orbit that the communication satellites, or the communication devices, wouldn't reach far enough to continue communicating with the Lunar probe that we sent. But it doesn't matter because I figured out that the Lunar probe is actually computer controlled rather than ground controlled. So that's good. Now we have this communication satellite in orbit to communicate with Middle Earth orbit things. And to the moon we go. Or maybe to the moon we are, possibly. I went ahead and already did the science. I'm going to bring you in a little bit late because there's a lot of boringness in between the Earth and the moon, and even going through the sphere of influence of the moon. So yes, it looks quite pretty. Unfortunately, I went out into map view. I gotta train myself not to do that. I kind of do that when I get nervous about getting the right trajectory, because it's very, very fine, the amount of thrust that you need, or the amount of velocity that you need to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere at the right angle from the moon. It's quite challenging. So yeah, I went ahead and put the booster there on a, or the final stage there on a suborbital trajectory, so that will burn up and probably explode. I was going to get a little bit lower to the surface, but I decided not to because I had concerns about how much fuel I had left and whether I was actually going to be able to recover this, because this does not have an antenna to transmit data. And I didn't realize until after the launch was over that I forgot to take the goo data. I forgot to do those experiments while we were in the sphere of influence of the moon, but we will be going back soon, so that shouldn't be a problem. And I was really extremely concerned that this is going to burn up, and I ended up skipping a little bit. Not too much. I didn't actually get back out of the atmosphere, but I came close. But yeah, overall, the re-entry was absolutely perfect. That's pretty much exactly what you want to do, is you want to come in a little bit hard, kind of skip up a little bit, and then come back. And it barely wore any of the ablative shield off until we got into the really thicker part of the atmosphere, and then the parachutes deployed. Okay, that will do it for this episode of KASA RPL. Thanks for watching. Click that like button if you did indeed like this. And enjoy your pancakes.